Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. Rain sat on the edge of the village's hill, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun dipped beneath the towering peaks of the Star Shadow Mountain. Every night, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter here, as if whispering secrets that only the bravest or most foolish could ever hope to decipher. He didn't know which category he fell into, but tonight, like every night, he wished for answer. The peaceful village of Andor lay below him, nestled in the valley, its houses glowing softly in the dimming light. His master, the old mage Tiberius, had always told him that some things were better left to the stars' mysteries that humans weren't meant to unravel. Yet something inside Rain couldn't accept that. He felt the magic stir within him, faint but undeniable, a connection to something greater. Tonight was the Festival of Stars, a time for celebration, but Rain found it hard to join in the festivity. A feeling gnawed at him, a strange sense of longing he couldn't quite explain. The village drums began to echo through the valley, and laughter filled the air, but his mind was elsewhere. "Rain, you're missing the fun again," called out a familiar voice behind him. It was Allure, one of the villagers and his closest friend. She approached, her eyes gleaming with the reflection of the first emerging star. "You always sit up here, lost, enjoying this every day we get to enjoy ourselves like this." Rain smiled at her, though. His mind remained clouded. "If I will just give me a moment, I feel like something's sudden coming." Allura raised an eyebrow, accustomed to his odd sense of intuition. "You're always predicting something. You should have been born an astrologer, not an apprentice magician." He chuckled softly. "She'll maybe, but I can. Shake this feeling." The sky above began to darken, the first stars twinkling into view. Rain let out a long breath, his chest tight with the familiar sensation of magic stirring in the air like a static charge before a storm. Just as he was about to stand and follow Ella back down the hill, something remarkable happened. A single star, far brighter than the others, blazed across the sky, leaving a shimmering trail in its wake. But it wasn't just a normal shooting star. It stopped, hovering in place above the distant mountains, pulsating with light. Rain saw it, skipped a beat, and suddenly the world around him seemed to blur. In the blink of an eye, he was no longer on the hill. He stood in an ancient chamber, its walls lined with symbols and constellation. The air was thick with magic, and the ground beneath him thrummed with power. In the center of the room stood a throne carved from shimmering starlight itself, and on it a figure cloaked in shadow. Who are you?" The figure did not respond, but the air around it shimmered with energy. Slowly, it raised a hand, and from its palm, a brilliant orb of light floated towards Rain. Inside the orb images flickered visions of a kingdom long lost, a great battle, and a symbol Rain had only seen in ancient texts, the Star Shadow Sigil. "You're the heir," the voice whispered, deep and ethereal, echoing through the chamber. "You're off the last of your bloodline. The kingdom calls to you." The orb burst in a flash of light, and Rain was thrust back into the present. He gasped for air, his heart racing. Alara stood in front of him, concerned on her face. "Rain, are you okay? You spaced out for a moment there." He blinked, still reeling from what he just experienced. "I need to talk to Master Tiberius Ivory," he said, stumbling to his feet.
"Yes, now."
Rain rushed through the village, his mind spinning. The stars, the vision, the voice, they all pointed to one thing. He was the last heir to the Star Shadow Kingdom, a kingdom that had been lost to history centuries ago. But how could that be? He had grown up here in this small village, never knowing any of his family beyond the old stories his parents used to tell him before they passed. By the time he reached Master Tiberius' cottage, his breath came in ragged gasps. The old mage was sitting by the fire, his eyes closed, as if expecting him. "I felt it too," Tiberius said without opening his eyes. "The stars are calling you, Rain." Rain stood there, chest heaving, unsure of what to say. "Shira, Master, what? What's happening? I saw something or someone. They told me I am the heir to the Star Shadow Kingdom. That could be right." Tiberius sighed, finally opening his eyes and gesturing for Rain to sit. "I was hoping this day would not come so soon, but the stars have a way of guiding us, even when we were not ready." He stood and retrieved an old worn book from a nearby shelf. The Star Shadow Kingdom was real long ago. It was said to be blessed by the stars themselves, its rulers gifted with magic beyond anything we can comprehend. But darkness fell upon the land and the kingdom was destroyed. The royal family was believed to have perished until now. Rain stared at him, still processing the words. But why me? How am I connected to any of this? Tiberius placed a hand on his shoulder. Hercules, because Rain, your bloodline is the last of the Star Shadow Royal. Your parents they knew, but they wanted to protect you. They hid you here, hoping to shield you from the fate that awaits you. Raina's heart sank. Yes, Tiberius. Quietly, and so did I, but we thought we had more time. The dark forces that destroyed the Star Shadow Kingdom have risen again. They seek to snuff out the last traces of star magic. And if they find you, well, you've seen what they were capable of. Rain's mind swirled with questions, but one thing was clear: he had to leave. The village wasn't safe anymore. What do I do now? He asked, his voice shaky. Tiberius looked at him, his expression grave. You must seek the Star Shadow artifact. It is the key to restoring the kingdom and defeating the darkness. But the journey will not be easy. You'll need allies, and you'll need to be careful. The shadows are always watching. Rain left the village under the cover of darkness, his mind a storm of fear, excitement, and uncertainty. He had never traveled beyond the valley before, and now he was being thrust into a quest that felt far too big for him. But there was no turning back. The stars had chosen him, and whether he liked it or not, he was the last hope for the Star Shadow Kingdom. The first leg of his journey took him through the dense, darkening forest, a place known for its danger. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches clawing at the sky, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Rain moved cautiously, his senses heightened. He knew the forest was filled with creatures that would not hesitate to attack a lone traveler, and he had little combat experience. After several days of travel, he stumbled upon a campsite. The fire was still burning, and there was a figure sitting by it, a woman with long, silver hair and pointed ears. She was dressed in the elegant garb of the elven archers, her bow resting beside her. Rain hesitated, unsure whether to approach, but before he could make a decision, the elf spoke without turning. You're not very good at sneaking, you know. Rain froze, his heart pounding. The elf stood and turned to face him, her piercing green eyes locking onto his. It's fine. I've been expecting you, Reign of the Star Shadow Kingdom. Rain's mouth went dry. The elf smiled faintly. My name is Elan, and my people have long watched over the remnants of the Star Shadow magic. We knew the day would come when the heir would return. She gestured for him to sit by the fire. Do you re-heading for the Star Shadow artifact, aren't you? Rain nodded, still wary. But how do you know about it? Aelin sat back down, her expression serious. The artifact is a beacon of power. The dark forces that destroyed your kingdom seek it as well, to consume the magic that lies within it. If they get to it before you do, there will be no stopping them. Rain swallowed hard. So you here to help me? Aelin nodded. I am. The elves have a stake in this too. The balance of magic on this continent is tied to the fate of the Star Shadow Kingdom. If it falls, we all fall. They set off together the next morning, Rain feeling a bit more confident with an experienced ally by his side. Aelin was quiet but focused, her keen senses keeping them safe from the dangers of the forest. Rain found himself watching her, fascinated by how effortlessly she moved, how her sharp eyes seemed to catch every flicker of movement in the tree. After several days of travel, they reached the foothills of the mountain. Storms where they hoped to find the next ally on their journey, a dwarf warrior named Brooke. According to Aelin, Brooke was one of the last living warriors who had fought in the ancient wars between the Star Shadow Kingdom and the Dark Forces. If anyone knew how to fight the shadows, it was him. The mountain was treacherous, its jagged cliffs and swirling winds making every step a challenge. Rain struggled to keep up with Aelin, his legs burning from the climb. But finally, they reached the entrance to a cave where Aelin said Brooke could be found. As they entered the cave, a deep, rumbling voice echoed from within. Tari, who dares disturb my rest? Aelin stopped and called out, Brooke of the Iron Fist clan, we come seeking your aid. A moment later, a massive figure emerged from the shadows. Brooke was everything Rain had imagined a dwarf warrior would be: short, stocky, with muscles like steel and a beard that nearly touched the ground. He carried a massive warhammer, its surface covered in intricate runes. I don't help just anyone, growled, his eyes narrowing as he sized them up. There, what makes you think I'll help you? Rain stepped forward, his heart pounding. pounding, and I need your help to stop the dark forces from taking over. Brooke's eyes widened, and for a moment, Rain thought he saw a flicker of recognition. But then the dwarf scowled. The Star Shadow Kingdom is dead, just like the rest of us will be if those shadow bastards have their way. Rain met his gaze, refusing to back down. Tied not if we stop them. Brooke's eyes lingered on Rain for a long, tense moment, as if weighing his words against the burden of his own doubt. The silence in the cave grew heavy, only broken by the distant howl of wind from the mountain pass outside. Rain held his breath, determined to show no fear in the face of the dwarf's skepticism. He had come too far to turn back now. Finally, Brooke grunted, slinging his warhammer over his shoulder. If you were really the heir, then you will need more than just fancy words and magic tricks to survive what's coming. The dark forces won. T'd be easy to stop, but he glanced at Thielen, then back to Rain, his expression softening slightly. I suppose if the stars sent you, maybe there's still hope. Phew. Rain exhaled in relief, though he could sense that Brooke's acceptance came with conditions. We have to move quickly, Rain said. The shadow creatures are growing stronger. They attacked my village. They won't stop until they find the Star Shadow artifact. Brooke nodded grimly, and I have seen their work firsthand, but don't think this is going to be easy, lad. The artifact hidden deep within the Star Shadow Temple, and it's guarded by more than just ancient magic. We'll have to fight our way through. Aelin spoke up, her voice calm but firm. We'll need to trust each other if we're going to make it. The shadows are closing in. Brooke gave a reluctant nod, then motioned toward the back of the cave. I've got supplies stored here. We'll rest tonight and head out at dawn. The mountain pass is dangerous, but with luck, we'll reach the temple in a few days. That night, the fire crackled quietly in the cave as Rain, Aelin, and Brooke shared a simple meal of bread and dried meat. The weight of their mission hung in the air, unspoken but felt by all of them. Rain could shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much larger, something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. He stared into the flames, his mind racing with thoughts of the kingdom he was destined to reclaim. The visions from the stars had been so clear, yet the path forward felt murky, filled with shadows and uncertainty. Could he really lead these people? Could he truly restore the Star Shadow Kingdom and protect the magic that had been lost? As if sensing his doubt, Aelin spoke softly from across the fire. You don't have to carry this burden alone, Rain. We were here to help you. Rain looked up, meeting her gaze. Her green eyes were steady, filled with quiet confidence. I know, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But it's still hard to believe sometimes. Brooke grunted from where he sat, sharpening his warhammer with a whetstone. Believe it, lad, destiny. It's a tricky thing, but it's got a way of finding you, whether you were ready for it or not. Rain nodded, though the weight of that truth still pressed heavily on his heart. He wasn't sure if he was ready for what lay ahead, but he knew one thing: he couldn't turn back now. The next few days passed in a blur of cold winds, treacherous climbs, and tense silence. The path through the mountain of storms was as dangerous as Brooke had warned, with narrow ledges and jagged cliffs that threatened to send them tumbling into the abyss below. Rain relied on Aelin's sharp instincts and Brooke and brute strength to guide them through the worst of it, though every step felt like a gamble. On the third day, they encountered their first real test, a group of shadow creatures lurking near the edge of the path, their twisted forms blending into the rocky terrain. Rain's heart hearted as he recognized the creatures from his village, the same dark beings that had nearly killed him. Aelin was the first to react, her bow drawn in a blur of motion. She loosed an arrow with deadly precision, striking one of the creatures between its glowing red eyes. The creature let out a guttural hiss and dissolved into a cloud of black smoke. Brooke charged forward with a roar, swinging his warhammer in wide arcs, smashing through the shadows with brutal efficiency. Rain, still unsteady with combat magic, struggled to focus his power. He summoned a faint glow of starlight in his palm and hurled it toward the nearest creature, but the magic fizzled out before it made contact. Panic flared in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. He couldn't afford to freeze up now. Rain focus, Aelin called out, loosing another arrow that struck true. Taking a deep breath, Rain concentrated harder, letting the magic flow through him. This time, the starlight burst from his hand, with more force, striking the creature square in the chest. It exploded in a flash of light, leaving nothing but ash behind. Rain's pulse raced, but didn't he have time to celebrate his small victory? More shadow creatures appeared, crawling out from the cracks in the rocks, their red eyes gleaming with malice. "We're re-surrounded," Brooke shouted, his warhammer cleaving through another creature. "Sorry, we need to push through." Rain glanced at Elen, who nodded in silent agreement. They had no choice but to fight their way forward. Rain summoned more Starlight, his hands glowing brighter with each spell. He could feel the power growing inside him, stronger and more controlled than before. The shadows recoiled from the light, and for the first time, Rain felt like he was truly beginning to understand the magic that flowed through his veins. With a final concentrated blast of Starlight, Rain cleared a path through the remaining creatures. Brooke and Ellen followed close behind, their weapons cutting down any stragglers that tried to block their way. By the time the last shadow creature fell, Rain was panting, sweat pouring down his face despite the cold. His hands trembled from the strain of using so much magic, but he forced himself to stay upright. "Not bad, lad," Brooke grunted, wiping black ichor from his warhammer. "You're getting the hang of it." Kneeling gave him a small, approving smile. "Tree! Feel lucky you were here." Rain, the shadows fear the light. Rain nodded, though his exhaustion weighed heavily on him. He knew they were far from done. It took them another day to reach the entrance of the star-shadowed temple, an ancient crumbling structure hidden deep within the mountain. The temple was massive, its towering columns etched with ranchuds that glowed faintly in the dim light. Rain felt a chill run down his spine as they approached the massive stone doors, knowing that the artifact and the final confrontation waited within. Maya was already there. The astrologer stood at the base of the steps, her dark robes billowing in the wind, her eyes fixed on the sky above. She had always been an enigmatic figure, her presence unsettling but undeniably powerful. Rain had never fully trusted her, but she had proven useful time and again. "You've arrived," she said without turning, her voice smooth and distant. "I've been watching the stars and they tell me we are running out of time." Rain approached her cautiously, his heart still racing from the fight with the shadow creatures. "Free quote, you mean?" Maya turned to face him, her eyes glinting with a strange light. "The dark forces are gathering stronger than ever. They know you right here, Rain. The artifact is the key to everything, but it's also a trap. If you read not careful, it will consume you." Raina's stomach twisted at her words. "I stink." Maya stepped closer, her gaze intense. The star shadow artifact is a powerful weapon, but it comes at a cost. It will amplify your magic, make you stronger than you've yet imagined, but it will also demand a price. If you use it, you may not survive. Rin swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling over him like a shroud. He had always known this journey would be dangerous, but he hadn't realized just how much he would have to sacrifice. "I don't have a choice," he said quietly. The dark forces won. Stop until they've destroyed everything. I have to stop them." Maya nodded slowly. "I know, but be careful. Rain, the stars are watching too." With a deep breath, Rain turned toward the temple doors, his heart pounding in his chest. Ellen and Brooke stood behind him, ready to follow him into the depths of the temple. Together, they pushed open the massive stone doors, and a rush of cold air greeted them, carrying with it a faint whisper of ancient magic. The inside of the temple was vast and dark, the walls lined with carvings of constellations and celestial symbols. Rain felt a strange sense of familiarity as he stepped forward, the air thick with the weight of history. This was where his ancestors had once ruled, where the magic of the stars had been strongest. At the far end of the temple, a pedestal stood bathed in soft, glowing light, and atop it, the star shadow artifact, a small crystalline orb, pulsing with raw, unrestrained power. Rain approached it slowly, his breath shallow. He could feel the magic radiating from the artifact, calling to him, urging him to take it. But Maya's warning echoed in his mind. As Rain reached out to touch the artifact, a voice boomed through the temple, cold and filled with malice. "So the last era of Star Shadow has finally come to claim his birthright." Rain froze, his hand hovering above the artifact. From the shadows, the dark general emerged, a towering figure clad in black armor, his eyes glowing with an eerie red light. "You're too late," the dark general sneered. "So the shadows have already won. Your kingdom is gone, and soon. So will you. Rain's heart raced as the dark general advanced, his presence suffocating. Aelin drew her bow, her arrows trained on the enemy, while Brooke gripped his warhammer tightly, ready for a fight. But Rain knew this battle was different. The Dark General wasn't just another shadow creature. He was the embodiment of the darkness that had destroyed the Star Shadow Kingdom, and Rain would need more than just magic to defeat him. With a deep breath, Rain reached for the artifact, feeling its power surge through him as his fingers closed around it. The stars blazed in his mind, their light filling him with strength. He could feel the starlight magic coursing through his veins, more powerful than anything he had ever experienced. But with that power came a terrible price, a searing pain that shot through his body, threatening to tear him apart from the inside. Rain gritted his teeth, forcing himself to hold on. He couldn't let the darkness win. He couldn't let the shadows destroy everything. With a final desperate cry, Rain unleashed the full force of the artifact, Set's power, sending a wave of brilliant starlight crashing into the Dark General. The shadows screamed in agony as the light consumed them, banishing the darkness from the temple. Rain collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, his body trembling from the strain. The artifact slipped from his hand, rolling away as its glow dimmed. Aelin and Brooke rushed to his side, their faces etched with concern. But Rain barely heard them, his vision blurred, and the pain in his chest was overwhelming. The last thing he saw before the darkness claimed him was the stars, shining brightly in the sky above.